Hello and welcome to episode 14 of SAAB Fever. My name's Frank, and in today's episode we'll be removing the front spring and strut on a 9.3 convertible. The task for today was to finish the job of getting the 9.3 convertible through its MOT. One of the things it failed on was cracked spring on the passenger side. That's the side away from us at the moment. I did that work already off camera, got it through its MOT. Now I need to replace the spring on the driver's side so that the ride quality isn't affected in any way. I thought that would be a good opportunity to show the process here. Step 1, as with most of these jobs, is jack the vehicle up and support it on an axle stand. Thankfully all the wheel nuts are coming out quite easily. None of them have been done up stupidly tight or anything. The brakes are looking a little rusty, but it's fine. They passed their MOT about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it's just been sat there ever since. Just picking a good spot there for the axle stand and then lowering the car. Sorry about the angle here. I'm still new to this YouTube stuff, and I'm far more concerned about doing the work than showing it, which is unfortunate for you guys, I suppose. Standard issue here, though. I'm just giving everything a rub down with a wire brush. Getting any corrosion off the nuts and threads that are exposed. And in a sec, once that's done, and I'm happy that that will certainly aid removing of anything, I'll give them a little spray with some WD-40. Just removing a little retaining clip that holds the brake line in place. If I'd hired a cameraman, you'd probably be able to see that too. There's this bracket, there's a small bracket that's held in with, I think it's only like a little 10mm nut. Just holds the ABS sensor on. Those nuts are on there good and tight. I can't get that to budge. So it's time to crack out the breaker bar. There we go. Breaks it free with some ease. Don't have a lot of room to play with it in there, but enough. It's basically the same with the lower one as well. Now that they're broken free, I can carry on with the normal ratchet. Rather than mess around trying to hold the top end of the anti-roll bar link in place, I'm basically just going to break it free as is. With it broken, obviously the threads are now turning along with the nut. You can sometimes get a spanner in behind to hold them in place. Thankfully I did take some footage of that. I'll be able to show that later. I find they tend not to have enough space, and although you can get the spanner on, you basically throw the rubber cover off of the socket and ball joint. If you were replacing them, that would be fine. I'm not replacing them though. I want to keep them, so I want to keep them in good condition too. So I will actually use an Allen key in a sec to hold the threads still while I remove the nut with a spanner. Okay, with a suitable Allen key on, I can now just use a spanner. Yeah, it's a little time consuming, but it'll come off. yeah, I remember this bit. I discovered that it makes perfect sense, but I discovered it when I did the other side. Although you can unscrew it, you won't be able to remove it with the car just jacked up on one side. You see, the problem here is the anti-roll bar is doing its best to work against me at the moment because the other wheel is obviously still holding the weight of the car. To relieve all of that sort of tension, yeah, it would be tension, you need to jack up the entire front end of the car, not just one side of it. So, having remembered that from last time, it's shocking, that was only about 2 weeks ago, and yet I managed to forget again. But anyway, here we go. So I'm jacking up the entire front end of the car now. Basically got a small bit of wood on the jack there, and I'm lifting it on the front subframe. Now with the tension removed from the anti-roll bar, and therefore the subsequent drop link, it just pops out without any bother at all. There, you should just be able to see the notch there at the, oh, that will be 10, 4 and 10 roughly. You can see the sort of flat edge there. That's where you would be able to put a suitable size spanner on and hold it still from the back end, while you could then use like a socket and a ratchet on the front. Sadly, that entire area is like maybe 2 mil deep. As soon as you put a spanner on it, you just end up pushing the rubber sleeve off. Here's a better shot that shows you all the work I've done up until now. It would have been nice to have had this shot earlier. I've left the nuts on so that I can just hammer those big bolts out. The bottom one comes out quite happily by itself, but I don't know if it's just corroded in. It's probably not. It's probably because it's under some sort of tension somewhere. I end up using the other one as a drift to just hit it out. No, that didn't work. Back to using the other one. Rocking it back and forward seemed to help a lot there. You can see quite a bit of corrosion going on. The struts themselves were actually picked up as advisories on the MOT, but I'm sure they've got another year of life left in them. With the bottom end released, I moved my attention to the top. there are 3 reverse Torx bits on the top. They're not on too tight, a quick thump releases them. You do have to be kind of careful here. Those 3 Torx screws are the only things holding the strut on at the moment. So with that out of the way, it's back down to lower. The only thing holding it on is the corrosion between the strut and the hub at the moment. I think beating it with the screwdriver was unnecessary. I think rocking it back and forth would have was probably all that was ever required. But there we go, it's out. Okay, this is the bit of video that differs from what most of you will be doing. I'm quite lucky in that I actually have a strut station at home. Still, even without a big strut station like this, the principle is the same. You would use spring compressors. The idea is that by compressing the spring by itself, you remove the tension. Well, at least you remove the tension that's currently being exerted onto the strut by the spring. Just give it a spray with WD-40. It might help, I'm not entirely sure. I'm setting it all up here with the tool I had to purchase to do the other side. Thankfully, the bar that goes on the top there, at the very top, gets stuck against the side of the strut station itself. That's very convenient for stopping the entire center of the threads turning. And then it just breaks free. As I discovered on doing the other side, without the correct tools, this job's basically impossible, and with the correct tools, it's actually quite straightforward. I'm needing to support the strut here, since as soon as that screw comes off, the entire strut will just fall out. Just do the last little bit by hand. And there we go, the strut's now separated from the spring. Okay, time for the new spring to go in the compressor. Pop the strut back in. Screw it all back together. Really, this is it's just the reverse of taking it apart, to be honest. And there it is, brand new spring. On a possibly decades old strut. Well, since I seem to manage to do such a terrible job in the actual filming, I thought I'd at least show off the kit I bought. I had some tools at home. I thought I'd get away with it. I did not. I learnt this on the passenger side, the side I actually had to replace for the MOT. I needed the proper kit to do it, so this is the one I bought. There's 50 something quid on eBay. Let's have a look. I will show you the parts actually used. You can probably work it out. A little bit dirtier than the rest. It was the 21mm socket, the H7 hex, and in essence what you do, you mount that on the top, so that goes onto the nut on the strut itself. This goes through, and the sort of Allen key style hex head here goes through, and it holds onto the screw on the top, so that stays stationary. Let's put that on a sec. I used this bar as you saw in the video. The reason I could have used another ratchet, to be honest. I just used this because it was convenient. It would hold against the bar on the strut tool I have, so that just rested there against the bar by itself, leaving me free to undo this. So with all that in place, this holds the screw still and doesn't let it move. Meanwhile, you carry on unscrewing that yourself. Both of them were stupidly tight. I don't know what the actual torque spec is on them. It's something bloody high, whatever it is. Either that or, let's face it, the car's about 17 years old. There's a good chance it's the original. I wouldn't have thought, not a 9.3. But anyway. Okay, we're back to the car now. I'm just going to clean up that where the hub and the strut actually mate together. There's quite a bit of corrosion there, so I'm just going to do my best with the wire brush here on the drill. Just clean it up as best as I can, because I'm planning probably having to replace the strut next year anyway. Really is just a case of putting the strut back in where it was, and then going up to the top of the car. The way I did it, I seem to have lost that footage. The way I did it, I held it in place with one hand, rotated it slightly until I got it lined up with the screw holes. Then with my other hand, just put it in finger tight. Once one was done, the rest were very easy to do, and then it's just a case of tightening them up. So the top end's done, back down below. I'll put the anti-roll bar drop link back on now. Now unfortunately here the strut and spring are sitting a little higher than the hub. It's not because I've put lowering springs on it or anything, it's just because of the way everything was. Rather than try to lift the hub and maneuver it back into place, I'm using the jack. I'm using the jack here to lift the hub, so to speak, for me, so that I can then just position everything to get it all back together. A little bit of fine tuning required, but once you get the holes lined up, you can just poke those bolts back through. That's that little bracket I was talking about earlier. It just holds the wiring for the ABS sensor in place. And then there's the brake line. Just put that back in and push the clip in, really. I say push, I'm going to hold it in place and a few light taps with a hammer. There we go, job is done. Now it's just a case of putting the wheel back on, and we are complete. Now it's just a case of put the wheel back on and job's a good one. As always, thanks for watching.